Welcome back. In this lecture, we'll start with understanding realism, understanding theory of international relations in quite a detail. The next step in understanding realism has to be understanding Hans Morgenthau. Right? We have understood through EH car. What we have understood through EH car? EH car basically says and basically criticize liberals as utopians. He says that liberals idea of world order is a farce. It is a thing of joke. It does not work, right? You give you give you give you liberal utopian ideas, then people like Hitler, people like Mussolini make a joke out of it. This was EH car. But the real, right, people will talk about things, people will keep saying about things, but who is real father of something in political science? Who is real father of anything on everything? When we call father of something someone, we say that that person has systematized the realist school of international relations. Hans Morgenthau systematized realist school of international relations. That is why he is father of realism or realist school of international relations. Right? Hans Morgenthau is father of realism, and why he is called father of realism? Because he systematized school of international realist school of international relations through his book Politics Among Nations in 1948. In 1948, right? What does he want to criticize in his book Politics Among Nations? What does he want to criticize? He wants to criticize idealism in American foreign policy. American foreign policy. He wants to criticize idealism in American foreign policy. He wants to criticize institutionalism in American foreign policy. He wants to criticize democracy, imposition of democracy. He wants to criticize freedom of trade. He wants to criticize rational. He wants to criticize American foreign policy's view of states as rational negotiators. He wants to criticize all that, right? So Morgenthau is father of realist school of IR, and he criticized idealism in American foreign policy. 1948 book Politics Among Nations, right? Who were the influences, right? Who influenced Morgenthau? Or better question is, who influenced realist school of thought, right? Sources of influence on Morgenthau or realist school of thought. Realist school of thought. So who were the sources of influence? Sources of influence were people like Thucydides, right? Thucydides. Thucydides. In his book History of Peloponnesian War, History of Peloponnesian War. In his book History of Peloponnesian War, there is very famous quote of Thucydides, right? He says in his book that strong do what they want, right? Strong do what they want. Weak endure what they can, right? Strong do what they want and weak endure what they can, right? He says between power and morality, power always wins, right? power always wins. Power is essential feature of democracy, or not of democracy, but politics. And morality in politics is like death sentence. There is no ethics in politics. There is no ethics in interstate politics. There is no ethics in international relations. What what is the feature of international relations? It is self-help. Self-help. What is self-help? Even God help those who help themselves. Even God help those who help themselves. This is the nature of this is the nature of international relations. What is the primary idea behind international relations? It is power, it is self-help, and it is saying that strong do what they want, weak must endure what they can. Power is essential feature. This is the first influence on Hans Morgenthau. The second influence on Hans Morgenthau is Machiavelli. Machiavelli has given one principle, raison d'etat, right? Reason of the state. National raison d'etat is like national interest. Raison d'etat, raison d'etat, national interest. Machiavelli. Machiavelli gave his view on state politics in his book, of course, The Prince. And he says that national interest is the moving force of foreign policy. National interest is moving force. Raison d'etat is moving force. Raison d'etat, if you write in your question answer paper, it is going to, of course, going to fetch you more marks. So raison d'etat, national interest, is moving force of foreign policy. There is no place of ethics in politics. This is the idea of Machiavelli. This is the influence of Machiavelli, right? The third influence is Hobbes. Hobbes, specifically Hobbesian view on human nature. In his book Leviathan, Hobbesian view on human nature, whereby Hobbes says that man is power-seeking animal. Hobbes is power-seeking animal. Man is utilitarian. Man is selfish, right? A power with a man is source of insecurity for another, and he has given idea of security dilemma. What is security dilemma? Security dilemma is basically fear of life. It is fear of life. Security dilemma is fear of life, right? Hobbes say that why should state exist for preservation of life? You take that principle on national level, you have fear of not death but fear of attack. Security dilemma basically means that you are fearful that someone will attack you at any point of time. Security dilemma. If you have security dilemma, you will always go for more power. You would want more power to yourself. That is the idea. That is the idea. And on these influences of Thucydides, that that powerful make the laws, Machiavelli, national interest, and Hobbes, man is a power-seeking animal. Hans Morgenthau gave his principles of realist school. Hans Morgenthau gave some principle of realist school. The first principle is The first principle is laws of international politics is driven by human nature. And what kind of human nature does Hans Morgenthau takes its influence from? He takes his influence from Hobbes. He takes his influence from Hobbes. And what kind of animal does Hobbes say man is? Man is a power-seeking animal. Man is a power-seeking animal, right? Man is animus dominandi, right? A man wants to dominate other, right? And the similar way, states also want power. States also want to dominate, right? State want power. State also want to dominate. So, so Morgenthau says that international politics is driven by human nature. As human nature is power seeking, state are also power seeking. The second principle is concept of national interest. National interest it takes from Machiavelli's principle of raison d'etat in his book Prince. Right? With respect to national interest, he says that national interest is primary focus, primary end, primary means of foreign policy. National interest is at center of realist school of thought. National interest is primary element of foreign policy. And he says, what are the constituting elements of national interest? What are the constituting elements of national interest? It is power, right? What kind of power? Realist will always depend on hard power. What is hard power? What is soft power? We will see in concept of international relations. But hard power is basically economic. It is strategic. Hard power is military power, right? It is military power. And realist will say, Morgenthau will say that power is and hard power, not soft power. Power is means and ends of national interest, right? Power is both means and ends of national interest. You exercise power to get more power, right? You exercise power to get more power. And he says that power, power, how much power you have, how much power you want, there is no end to that. So no amount of power is ever enough. No amount of power is ever enough, right? And ultimate end of power is national interest, right? I can say national interest and national power are two similar terms, right? Are two similar terms. Then the third principle that he gives, what he explains is character of national interest. Character of national interest. What is character of national interest? Character of national interest, it is dynamic. It is not static. How it is dynamic, right? How it is dynamic? Number one, it is spatially dynamic. It means between states, national interest differ. That American national interest is different from Indian national interest. Indian national interest is different from Pakistani national interest. So, national interest is dynamic. It is differentiating among states. The second thing is it is temporally dynamic. What does temporally dynamic means? It is constantly changing, right? There is constant continuity. There is continuity and change in national interest. Like India's national interest in 70s and India's national interest today are two very different things. India was on survival mode in 1970s. We were attacked from all the sides. There was constant emergency. There was internal unrest. So India was in survival mode in 1970s. But post 1991, today India and India's national interest are not survival. It is growth, right? From survival, from PL480, we did not have even food to eat. From there to today, Indian national interest have changed. It is no longer about survival, it is about growth today. Right? This is what I want to say by spatially dynamic and temporally dynamic. National interest is spatially dynamic, that it changes from one space to other space, and it also changes from one time to other time. The fourth principle is the fourth principle is correlation of ideology to national interest. What is correlation between ideology to national interest? Hans Morgenthau will say ideology has no bearing over national interest. Ideology has no effect over national interest. Right? On the first instance, it might seem that ideology is important, right? But it masks real intention. Real intention in international relations will 100% of the times will be about power, will be about power, right? India is giving India gave during Sri Lankan crisis in 2022, India 2022, 2023, 2022, during Afghan crisis of 2022, India gave credits, India gave aid to both Afghanistan and Sri Lanka. Tomorrow in Bangladesh, if something happens, India will go there, Indian army will go there, India will take care of everything. Let's say some flood is there, let's say some earthquake is there, India will be there. Is it out of goodness of Indians heart? It is out of goodness of Indian foreign policy, right? Maybe, but it is mostly about influence, right? India boasts to be first responder in every natural calamity, whether it be in Turkey, uh, whether it be in Sudan. India boasts about that we are the first responders, right? In India, in Indian Ocean, in Arabian Sea, India is supposed to be net security provider, right? If you don't know, whatever piracy happens in Arabian Ocean, the first responder against that piracy is Indian Navy. And I have heard this anecdote on some podcast, whereby I heard that Indian Navy, there was piracy which was going on. Indian Navy went there, took some oil, took some petrol, and just blasted that ship of pirates with pirates. Right? So this is not out of goodness of our heart. We want some power. We want influence on other nations. That we have power. We can reach before everyone else. We can do everything that we want. It is not about ideology. It is always about power. Right? Communist Russia, capitalist America, trying to influence India, trying to influence Indonesia, trying to influence Vietnam, trying to influence Korea, trying to influence Venezuela, Cuba. It is not about ideology. It is never about ideology. It was about power. On one side there was America, on other side there was Russia. They were trying to extend their influence all over the world. Why they were trying to influence all the nations all over the world? Because they wanted power, It was not about ideology. It is never about ideology in international relations. Right? This is the idea. There is no correlation between ideology and national interest. This is the fourth principle. Right? Do not worry, I have used some heavy words like first responder, like net security provider. You will understand. Going ahead, I will clear each and every one of them. This is just the second or third lecture. Right? The fifth, the fifth principle is role of ethics in international politics. What is role of ethics in international politics? Role of ethics in international politics is that there is no universal ethics, right? But right, it is not deontological ethics. In international politics, deontology does not work, but what works is consequentialism. What works is pragmatic ethics. Pragmatic ethics. What does this mean? What does this mean? Right? India, India is a non-violent country. India does not attack anyone. India has not started any wars. We have finished some, but we have not started any war. Right? But the principle of non-violence in Indian foreign policy, in the principle of uh, peace in Indian foreign policy, right? That is not deontological. That is not absolute. Recently, as we have seen through Operation Sindoor, if you come onto our land, if you kill our men, we will fight back. Right? Non-violence is not absolute. Our silence is not our weakness. The way and the day we hit you, we will hit you hard. We don't lack power. We are just mature. The idea is consequentialism. Ethics in international politics is not deontological. It is consequentialism. Doing what is right. Doing what is right. If you stick to your principles in international relations, your nation is going to doom. Right? Deontological foreign policy is doomed to fail from the start because that is how the world is. The world is a bad place. It is a dog eat dog place. It is not a good place. Everyone is looking out for their own national interest. Right? This is fifth principle. And this role of ethics or consequentialism we will understand in India's nuclear doctrine. Acquiring nuclear weapons by India, right? Whether it be Pokhran, whether it be Operation Shakti, why did it happen? Right? It is very essential to understand there. Right? Why ethics in international politics are consequential? It is pragmatic, not universal, not deontological. The sixth principle is the sixth principle is autonomy of politics. Autonomy of politics. Politics is autonomous from. Politics is free from. Politics is not economy. Politics is not law. Is not ethics. Right? Politics is not related to trade. Politics goes beyond trade. Politics is not textual. Politics is contextual. Politics is not ethics. Politics is not goodness. Politics is all that is badness. In international relations, politics is absolute badness. You lose all your sense of morality. You do what is right. You do what is right for your people. You do not do what is right for humanity. If you have to kill, you kill. There is no remorse in doing that. If you have to order, if you have to order something which is extremely reprimandable in normal circumstances, like Indira Gandhi ordered Mukti Bahini in Bangladesh in 1971. That is highly reprimandable, but it had to be done at that point of time. Right? autonomy of politics from economy, from law, from ethics. Politics is not economy, politics is not law, politics is neither ethics. This is the idea, right? This is the sixth principle as given by or as given by Morgenthau of realist school of international politics. Based on these principles, based on these principles, he has categorized he has categorized some types of nations, right? Some types of nations. Categories of nations is also an important factor in realist school of international politics. So we'll understand types of nations according to Morgenthau. The first type of nation is status quoist. Status quoist. Status quoist are, right, they want to preserve the order, right? They are beneficiaries of the system. For example, recent world order is US led. US led. The US led world order benefits United States. So United States don't want to change the world order, right? Status quo nations are those who don't want to change world order. In 1900s, world was Britain led. In 1900s, world order was controlled by British, right? British were status quoist in that world order. Beneficiaries of the world order are status quoist, the nation who don't want to change the the current world order. Then there are revisionist nations. There are revisionist nations, right? The states who want to change world order, right? Change world order, right? Status quoist means the people who want to maintain the status, right? Whatever the status quo is, they want to maintain that because the status quo benefits them. Revisionist is basically what revision means. Revision revision means to change. Revisionist world order means the people who want to change the world order. Example will be China. In current world order, current world order is US led. It does not, it benefits China, but if it is China led world order, it will benefit China more. Revisionists are the people or the countries who want to alter world order, who want to change status quo, right? Who want to change or alter status quo. The third type is imperialist, as explained by Morgenthau. Imperialist nations. Imperialist nations have aggressive foreign policy. Example, Hitler's foreign policy. He wanted to acquire as much land as possible for the Germanic people. These are three type of nation. These are three type of nation. And uh, what are these three type of nations? First is status quoist, who want to maintain the world order. Revisionist, who want to change the world order. And imperialist, who have aggressive foreign policy, who have attacking foreign policy. Right? Now he has given principles so as to on which principles world order work on. He has given types of nations, right? One wants to change, one don't want to change, and one are aggressive imperialist, right? Think it as a system, right? And with these principle and these types of nations, he has analyzed future of liberal world order. With these six principles and these three types of nations, he wants to predict future world order, future of liberal world order, and he says that liberal world order, liberal world order is not going to succeed, right? And he says if liberal world order has to succeed, there should be structural transformation, right? So what he gives six principle. What he gives it, he gives six three types of nation, and basis of this analysis, he has no faith on liberal world order. He says the idea of liberal world order will only work if there is structural transformation of liberal world order, right? And in this situation where there are six principles, uh, three nations in a liberal world order, he says what are the solutions, right? What are the solutions? What is the way forward? What are the ways to conduct foreign policy? It is diplomacy, it is balance of power, it is deterrence, right? In this situation, you can either conduct diplomacy, you can talk to people, there can be balance of power, that you acquire power in proportion to in proportion to your adversary nation, so that he does not attack you. Or there is deterrence. What does deterrence mean? Deterrence mean fear, or very specifically fear of attack. Deterrence, this word is usually used in context of nuclear deterrence. What is nuclear deterrence? States do not attack each other because they fear that if I attack other state, that state might use and can use nuclear weapon. If that state uses nuclear weapon, it is destructive for me, and there is going to be a mutually assured destruction. This is deterrence. Fear of attack. I have fear of attack, that is why I don't attack. Or I I create such deterrence to myself if that someone is fearful of attacking me. If I have nuclear weapon, people are deterred from attacking me, which means I have nuclear deterrence. Right? I protrude fear. I have aura of fear. I symbolize fear. That if you attack me, I will attack you so hard that your three generations will die. Deterrence. Fear of attack. I have such power that people would not attack me. So what are the solutions in surviving in a world order which has these six principles and three types of nations? It is either diplomacy or balance of power or deterrence, right? Or deterrence. The idea, as explained by Hans Morgenthau, was criticized by a lot of people, starting with neo-realist, right? Neo-realist or realist themselves. So neo-realist criticism of theory of Hans Morgenthau. Neo-realist, the biggest scholar of international relations, Kenneth Waltz is a neo-realist. Kenneth Waltz, I feel there is no better scholar than Kenneth Waltz in international relations. Kenneth Waltz. Kenneth Waltz criticizes Hans Morgenthau, and Kenneth Waltz call Hans Morgenthau to be unscientific. Unscientific because Waltz say that Morgenthau's theory is based on human nature, and no theory based on human nature can be scientific, right? It is a psychological theory, but not scientific theory. The second criticism was given by liberals, right? Liberals say the way Hans Morgenthau presents human nature, the way Hans Morgenthau uh, presents views of nations, if that were true, civilization could not have been possible. If nations were blood hungry hounds, as Morgenthau says, then there would be constant firefighting, there would be constant fighting, but there is no constant fighting, right? Liberals say Morgenthau, Morgenthau exaggerates conflict. Morgenthau exaggerates nature of nations. Liberals say there is a role of cooperation as well. Right? Right? Nations cooperate more than they fight. The third criticism was given by feminist scholars, right? And we will finish feminist theory of IR here only, right? The criticism as given by feminist is basically their theory. So feminist as criticizing IR, not IR but Morgenthau. Morgenthau's criticism was given by feminist scholar Anne J. Tickner. Anne J. Tickner in her book Gender in IR, Feminist Perspective on Achieving Global Security. On achieving global security. She criticizes realism to be a masculinist paradigm, right? The first criticism that Anne J. Tickner says about Morgenthau that she says that realism is a masculinist paradigm. The way men see each other, the way patriarchy is structured, Anne J. Tickner says that the same way international relations is also viewed by realists, right? She says realism is a masculinist paradigm. It only sees through man's lens. It only sees through patriarchal lens. It only sees through masculinist lens. So the first criticism is realist is a masculinist paradigm. The second criticism she gives of Morgenthau, Morgenthau says man is power seeking, right? Tickner says that this is patriarchal view. Man is not power seeking, right? Man is not power seeking as criticized by uh, Anne J. Tickner. The second criticism or the third criticism that she gives is that power as we see is explained by exploitative or extractive power, right? Realists see power to be exploitative or extractive, right? They see power game as zero sum game. Tickner says power is not zero sum game. Power is and can be used for empowerment. Power as empowerment as explained by Hannah Arendt or Gandhi. Tickner says power can be used for empowerment. This view, this view is also known as positive sum game. Two people coming together to play a game, both of them are winners. Right? Winner does not take all, but both of them are winners. Power is empowerment. Both parties are winners. This is positive sum game. Zero sum game is there is only one party that is winner. Positive sum game is basically all parties are winners. All of the parties go home happy. Right? Tickner says power is not zero sum game, but it is a power sum game. Power should be and can be used for empowerment. Right? The third criticism that Angie Tickner gives is criticism of concept of national interest. National interest as defined in terms of power. She says that national interest should not be defined in terms of power, but in terms of cooperation and power both. Right? She does not disregard power, but she says national interest should be defined as cooperation and power both. The fourth criticism that she applies is that there is universal aspiration, right? There is universal aspiration to achieve status quo. She says that nobody wants to change the system. Everyone wants to be happy. Nobody wants power. They just want flourishness. They just want happiness, right? So everyone wants status quo. Revisioning or change means fight. Nobody wants fight. Nobody wants bloodshed. This is the views of Angie Tickner. Then she says politics, not ethics. It is a narrow view. It is not a broad view. And she says that politics is ethics, right? The sixth principle is that when you read these six principles, the last principle is that there should be autonomy of politics from economy, law, and ethics, right? When I say politics is autonomous from ethics, I say that whatever action politicians take, right? It does not matter the action is just or unjust, right? Politicians don't have to take responsibility, right? Because there is no ethics in politics. She says that politicians have to take up responsibility, right? There should be some accountability for politicians. She says that we cannot absolve politicians of all responsibility. The seventh principle is the seventh principle is that morality, ethics, rationality, these three can used can be used to avoid wars, right? We need human race need ethics. We do not need power. We do not need war. This is the idea as given by Angie Tickner, and here we conclude the first great debate in international politics, debate between liberals and realists. In liberals we study Woodrow Wilson, in realists we study E.H. Carr and Hans Morgenthau. Going ahead, we'll start with second great debate between behavioralist and traditionalist. I hope this helped. Thank you so much. I will see you in the next